Want to know what a real man would tell their lady about love and life? You're in the right place. This is Hello Ladies with Rom Wills. Rom Wills is a speaker and author of several books on relationships. Grab some wine, sit back, and enjoy.
Hello, ladies. Welcome to my spot. The type of women I've met in life. You know what? Because I always have, every now and then, if some woman doesn't like something I say on my men's channel, probably here too, you know, they like, I wonder what type of women he been around. In fact, a lot of women will say that about any guy who says something they dislike. Oh, well, you ain't been around this type of woman. I wanted to share what type of women I've been around. Now, I've publicly said I've been around like some sex worker types because of the situation I lived in when I was young. But they weren't the only type. Those were just the ones I learned that thing called game from. They the ones kept me out of trouble, which is why I've never had any kids out of wedlock. Well, yeah, there's that one woman, but I don't know if she had kids. But anyway, yeah, y'all probably like, what the hell Rom talking about there? Yeah, don't figure out that woman. Anyway, yeah, so I've dealt with that, but they weren't the only types. Because usually what happens is somebody say, oh, you must have dealt with low self-esteem women, or you didn't deal with high-class women. And usually if a woman brings that up, really, I just said something that really irked her. You know, I said something that really, kind of hit home. So instead of like dealing with the issue, she's trying to invalidate what I said. You know, that ad hominem type of thing. And it's like, oh, let me attack the character of that person. So I said, you know what, let me tell them what type. So, and I've said that publicly, so it ain't a big deal about the sex worker type of women. I mean, you learn what you learn. But they ain't like, and they weren't like the only ones, because ironically at the same time, family had me up in church all the time. It was an interesting environment when I was young. I'm either up in some holiness church or something saying Jesus, 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 or I'm around some women walking around the home like no clothes on or half naked. Yeah. Interesting, both spiritual and sexual at the same time. Explains a lot about me. But that was just when you're little. But then as I, started living with my grandmother, dealt with a higher class of women, at least, solid, I say middle class, working to middle class type of girls and everything, just from the school I was going to. And, you deal with ironically, outside of being a little kid, I would say, you can't really count that. I say as an teenager on, when I'm actively trying to deal with little girls, most of them were middle class or church going. Like if you use the BGS terminology, I would say it started off at the 87s. Didn't deal with too many ratchets. And I would meet them intermittently throughout life and wouldn't deal with them long because of what I'm about to say. But then starting at the age of 14, I started attending this Catholic school in D.C., Archbishop Carroll. So then it was just a totally different crowd. Most of the girls and females I was dealing with were, college prep type of girls. But ones eventually, like now, like PhD, sorority girls, everything. And plus, I also interacted with at many Jack and Jill parties. And for those who don't know, those are like kids of upper class black folk. So I was going to their parties. Now, I wasn't a part of that world specifically. I was on the outskirts of it, but, there were many instances where you got to interact with them. You just had to know people. I just one of those people who know people. But at the same time, just, we'll go to anybody familiar with DC, we had those go-go's. And that's a whole other conversation where, there was music, as specific genre of music, and, you go to it was like dancing to it and everything. And that's the only time I might have dealt with any, shall we say, less than bougie type of women. But then just from that point on, it was always college educated or bougie type of women. And I'm saying that to give a perspective. Like the perspective was a wide perspective. And in fact, I'll say very wide, not totally wide. Because like I said, I didn't really deal with too many ratchet women from the age of 14 up. In fact, I could probably count them on one hand, honestly. Because that just wasn't my social circle. Now, I know how to deal with them enough if I run into one now, but as far as an attraction, no. So a lot of the stuff I'm talking about is stuff that affects primarily that middle class woman, particularly middle class black woman who probably has education, probably has 1 or 2 degrees. Like using BGS's terminology, I probably dealt with more 92 octanes than anything else. And like I've lost track of the women I dealt with who were members of either Delta or AKA. Which is why sometimes if I mention that, I've had some people say that, somebody said that on one video. I said, how come you only talk about the Deltas and AKAs? That's mostly what I dealt with. Oh yeah, I got some stories about some Deltas. And even my co-parents in AKA. So it's, understand that's one of the reasons why sometimes some women come up and they'll say, well, maybe just those women. I'm like, no, because I've seen the underworld of what some so-called professional women were doing. And I know the only difference between, from what I've seen, maybe a professional woman or educated woman or some woman, maybe she didn't go to school, but she worked hard to get to a certain position, or the ratchets is only thing is just how much you're going to see, because the higher you go up socially and economically, the more they get better at hiding stuff. But when you break it down, it's still the same principles. It's still the same principles as far as how you getting a mate. I mean, of course, the one thing the women will tend to want, I found that women will tend to want to mate within their own social class. Like hypergamy, and I've told this to the guys, hypergamy is really overrated. Only few, like a very attractive woman, sexually attractive, actually practice it because they're using their vaginas to move up in class. And those are usually the women, and one of the people in my private group, one of my inner circle guys said it. There's no real difference between an 85 octane and a 100 octane. Just access, who they have access to. But personality-wise, they're the same things. But this is who I've dealt with. This is who I dealt with. And it's an interesting thing because just seeing past the mask, just seeing the mask of someone who looks prim and proper in public, but doing, I'll say, some vile things in private is an interesting dynamic. And, that's actually why I learned, to be quiet about some things. Y'all notice I don't really talk about what I do privately. It's very rare. And it's not even, so much as hiding something, but it's so much I just got used to, dealing with somebody who's you got to be quiet about this. You going to be quiet, bro? It's yeah. But that's mostly the type, though. Mostly the type. Even now. And it's even now, it's if I meet somebody, they some type of sorority, I actually click with them quicker. Even if I physically don't look like I roll in that camp. And that's something else for my men's channel I'll talk with. Once I open my mouth, it's oh, okay. So anyway. Yeah, it's something. It's something because it gives you a perspective, and it's understanding my perspective. Because, like I said, sometimes women want to try to invalidate what I'm saying, and they'll try to use that. They'll say, well, we don't do that. It's come on now. Come on, seriously. It's just a matter if you want it seen or not. In fact, the best thing for some women to do is just be quiet. Just be quiet. Let me talk. If you don't agree, just to say, or you don't want to think it's you, but trust me. And I'm not the only one who could who's had those experiences, so we see what's up. But I just wanted to share that, get an understanding. So anyway, I'll talk to y'all ladies later. Peace and blessings.